Yo, what is good, everyone? Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prodigy Podcast. My name is Tyler Anderson. I'm your host, and in this episode, we are going to be previewing Week 12 of the 2025 fantasy football season, and of course, getting into my ever so important and accurate starts of the week. We also haven't talked since last week, so we'll quickly talk about that kind of crazy Thursday night football game. We won't spend too much time on that, but yeah, we're going to get right into it. Welcome to episode 53 of the podcast. Thank you for enjoying wherever you are listening or watching. If you do want video of the podcast, you can head over to the YouTube Fantasy Football Prodigy over on YouTube, and you can see my ugly mug talking ball. And if there's one thing I know, it's ball. So, yeah. Anyways, let's get right into... Let's talk about the Thursday night game really quick. Super quick. We have the Houston Texans hosting the Buffalo Bills. And, the Bills have not been playing their best football lately. And again, they kind of struggled. I don't know how much was them struggling and versus, the Texans defense just being awesome and Davis Mills being serviceable, filling in for CJ Stroud at quarterback. But the Texans got the win 23-19. The Texans moved to 6-5. The Bills dropped to 7-4. And my goodness, the Texans defense was just awesome. They had like 8 sacks. Danielle Hunter had 2 sacks. Former Minnesota Vikings GOAT. Will Anderson Jr. had 2.5 sacks himself. So this was really all about the Texans defense. And by the end of the game, it really was like exciting, and it turned into like a good game. The Bills were driving to win the game at the very end. They had this like 4th and 27 conversion where they threw it to a player running one way. He caught it, and then another player was like kind of running back across the field the opposite direction, lateraled it to him, and then there was just no, the defense over pursued on the initial person who caught the ball, lateraled it to the other guy, and he just had a free first down on 4th and 27. So at that point, you think the Bills are going to win, but no, they could not punch it in. The defense held strong for the Texans, and I had Josh Allen on my guillotine team. So yeah, he was disappointing. 253 yards, 2 interceptions. He had 20 yards on the ground at least, but he was still terrible for fantasy. And James Cook was really the one guy for the Bills you were happy with. I guess there was another guy too, but James Cook was 116 and a touchdown on the ground. 3 for 13 through the air. And then Khalil Shakir had a good game, 8 receptions for 110 yards on 10 targets. That was pretty much it. And then on the Texan side of the ball, Davis Mills was 16 of 30 for 153 and 2. Woody Marks, he once again outworked Nick Chubb. Woody had 16 for 74, so he's clearly the guy you want there. Chubb was 6 for 16 on the ground. Yeah, both of them had negative receiving yardage, which is interesting. And yeah, like Jaden Higgins, 4 for 38 and a touchdown. Christian Kirk, 5 for 54 and a touchdown. And Nico Collins was only 3 for 55 through the air. Dalton Schultz, 1 for 8. He'd been kind of hot, but the Bills shut down the tight end position, and they shut him down 1 for 8 on 4 targets. So let's move away from that game. That was an exciting start to the week. Let's look ahead at the rest of the week here and talk about my starts of the week. So we're going to go position by position, starting at quarterback. Quarterback start of the week, Jacoby Brissett of the Arizona Cardinals at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's been on fire and has been a quarterback 1 in each of his last 5 games. He'll be without wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. again this week, but Jacoby did just fine without him in his last game, as he set the NFL regular season record for completions in a game while lighting it up for fantasy. Tight end Trey McBride has been playing out of his mind with Jacoby. And I wanted to give a shout out to wide receiver Michael Wilson as a solid start this week. With Marv out last week, he stepped up big time, seeing a whopping 18 targets and finishing as the wide receiver 2 overall in the week with 15 receptions for 185 yards. I like Jacoby's odds to have another good game this week as he gets a great matchup with a Jags defense that has allowed the 5th most fantasy points per game to quarterbacks on the season. Now, I did fall on my face last week by making Justin Herbert a quarterback start of the week in this same matchup. Herbert performed terribly for fantasy, but the Jags pass defense has been a good one to target most of the season, and now they have to take on an actual elite quarterback and future Hall of Famer. I like Jacoby Brissett as a low to mid quarterback 1 in week 12. Moving on to the running back position. Running back start of the week, TreVeyon Henderson of the New England Patriots on the road against the Cincinnati Bengals. Running back Ramondre Stevenson has missed the last 3 games with a toe injury, and in that time, Henderson has filled in as the starter and been absolutely electric. Over the last 2 weeks, the rookie is the number 1 overall running back in fantasy. He finished as the running back 4 in week 10 with 27.5 points, and the running back 3 in week 11 with 29.8 points. Now he gets the best possible matchup for running backs in the league in a game that has an exciting 49.5 point over-under. The only slight hesitation with Henderson is that Ramondre Stevenson, the guy who had been blocking Henderson from getting touches all season until the injury, has a good shot to play this week. Obviously, I like Henderson as a start even more if he doesn't have to compete with someone else for touches, but I am excited to play him even with Ramondre back in the lineup. Stevenson will likely have a role, and there is a possibility that he takes more of the pie than we would like, but it's hard to ignore how much more juice Henderson has proven to have over Ramondre, and the team would be foolish to not continue to get the ball in his hands. Although we have seen them keep Henderson on the sideline way too often already this season, so you can never fully trust teams to do what makes sense to most people on the outside looking in. Taking a look at just this week, though, Ramondre is coming off a toe injury, so there's a good chance the team eases him back and doesn't give him a huge workload right away. Plus, Henderson doesn't need every single touch to exploit this terrible Bengals defense, as he can take it to the house anytime he touches the ball. Assuming Ramondre Stevenson is back this week, I still like TreVeyon Henderson as a high upside running back 2 in week 12. Moving on to wide receiver. Wide receiver start of the week, Tetairoa. That's not his name. Wide receiver start of the week, Tetairoa McMillan of the Carolina Panthers on the road against the San Francisco 49ers. Even though he passed the eye test and showed talent, T-Mac had been largely decent but unspectacular for fantasy all season. Last week, however, everything finally came together and he had his true breakout game. He finished as the wide receiver 1 overall on the week with 29 fantasy points as he put up 8 receptions for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns on 12 targets. Those were all season and career highs except for that touchdown number as he had a 2 touchdown performance in week 6 as well. The 49ers defense has been giving it up lately, and they have allowed the most fantasy points per game to wide receivers since week 5. This Monday Night Football matchup has an awesome 49.5 point over-under, and let's hope reigning Offensive Player of the Week Bryce Young can play well and get the ball to T-Mac. I like Tetairoa McMillan as a low wide receiver 1 in week 12. And then finally, we got the tight end position. Tight end start of the week, Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs at home against the Cincinnati Bengals. If you thought you could look past old man Kelce in 2025, think again. Even with Rashee Rice back in the lineup, he has still been getting it done. He's been a tight end 1 in 5 of his last 6 games, and he has been a top 3 tight end twice in his last 3 games. Last week, he saw a whopping 13 targets and finished with 9 receptions for 91 yards and a touchdown. The Chiefs are in desperate need of a win for their playoff hopes, and I expect them to look to their all-time great tight end a lot in this game. The Colts are the schedule-adjusted 4th best matchup on the season for tight ends, so the matchup is great. Also, this game has a 50.5 point over-under, which is tied for the highest on the week, so this game has a chance to really pop off. I like Travis Kelce as a mid tight end 1 in week 12. And then don't touch that dial. We got one more bonus tight end start of the week. And I don't know. I'm kind of nervous about this one, but I have a good feeling. Tight end start of the week, Hunter Henry of the New England Patriots on the road against the Cincinnati Bengals. Hunter Henry is always a risk to put up a dud performance, but he does have week winning performances from time to time, and he is in a great spot to crush this week. This start is all about the matchup. He is taking on a Bengals defense that is by far the best matchup for tight ends on the season and are historically bad at defending the tight end position. Drake May has been playing at an MVP. Let me rephrase that. Sorry. Drake May has been playing at an MVP level, and if he looks Henry's way in this game, he has a chance to have a big performance. I like Hunter Henry as a mid tight end 1 in week 12. Did I say that right? I like Hunter Henry as a mid tight end 1 in week 12. Sorry, I think I said that right the first time, but I put this on TikTok so I don't have to re-record anything. Also, I think I said Ramondre Stevenson's name earlier. I said that kind of weird. So hopefully that was fine. Please don't unsubscribe just because of that. All right. Well, let's get right into the rest of the games for the week. We got the Denver Broncos, Miami Dolphins, LA Chargers, and Washington Commanders all on bye. So if you got any of those players, you won't have them this week. All right. Let's start with the Indianapolis Colts at the Kansas City Chiefs. The Colts are 8-2. The Chiefs are 5-5. Where's the over under here? On DraftKings. That's where I get all of my my lines, by the way, for this podcast. I just look at the DraftKings line. Yeah, 15.5 point over under still, like when I was talking about Travis Kelce. So this game could kind of, be super high scoring. Isaiah Pacheco is going to be out at running back for the Chiefs, and Xavier Worthy is listed as questionable with an ankle injury that I'm seeing. So on the Chiefs side of the ball, Kareem Hunt becomes an okay start just because without Pacheco there, he's kind of, the clear lead back there with Brashard Smith, kind of getting involved, but not really. So, since let's go last 5 games schedule adjusted, the Colts are like 19th against running backs. They're the 19th best, or no, 19th worst. They're middle of the pack. Okay. So I'm fine starting Kareem Hunt as like not a must start, but someone you can play as like a low running back 2, high running back 3. Patrick Mahomes, I like him this week as a good start. It hasn't been as great lately, but they really need a win here, and if they're going to win, they're going to have to do it through Mahomes. Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, you're starting them. Rashee Rice is a must-start receiver. Travis Kelce is basically a must-start tight end at this point, unless you have McBride, Bowers, or Kittle, or Tyler Warren in the same game on the other side of the ball. So I'm starting Tyler Warren for the Colts. At receiver, if I had to pick one between Pittman and Alec Pierce and even Josh Downs, I would go Michael Pittman. I was kind of hearing about this matchup, and basically with the way the coverages are predicted to go with how the Chiefs typically play defense, Pittman kind of matches up better with the Chiefs and how they play defense. Plus, I would probably rather play Pittman most weeks. Now, this is still a tough matchup. The Chiefs are a really good defense, and this is going to be in Arrowhead in Kansas City. The Chiefs are the 5th toughest matchup for wide receivers. So you can play Pittman and Pierce, but maybe limit your expectations. And then Jonathan Taylor at running back, obviously you're starting him, but again, the Chiefs are very, very tough against running backs. So they're the 5th best in the last 5 weeks. And then a quarterback, Daniel Jones is, he's been good this year. A lot of it comes down to matchup. Just based on other options this week, Daniel Jones is still someone you can start. It just could go poorly. This is the type of game where I could see the old Danny Dimes come back and rear its ugly head. The the last couple games. Was it 2 games ago against Pittsburgh? He had 3 interceptions, and it was just really ugly. I think he had some fumbles too. And then last week against Atlanta, it just seemed like the whole team was being kind of careless with the ball. I don't remember how many actually turned into turnovers, but there were some times when they would like fumble the ball, and it was like, whoa, like you got to kind of lock in here. So against the Chiefs, you cannot get away with that compared to doing that against the Falcons. So I think the Chiefs win this game. And it's expected to be a high scoring game. I could definitely see it hitting the under if the Chiefs defense can kind of shut down the Colts. But you're obviously starting, Jonathan Taylor. Don't care about the matchup with him, or Tyler Warren. You're almost for sure starting too. Moving on, my Minnesota Vikings. Hey, let's go. This should be a fun time at 4-6, taking on the Green Bay Packers. In Green Bay, 41.5 point over under, gross. The Packers are 6-point favorites. I think I forgot to say for the last game, but the Chiefs are 3.5 point home favorites. I didn't mention that, but yeah, in this game, the Packers are favored by 6. Vikings are 4-6. Packers are 6-3-1. Big injury news here is Josh Jacobs is questionable. Looks like he's going to go through pregame warmups before deciding if he's going to play or not. So if he's active, I'm starting him. If he's out, Emmanuel Wilson will fill in as the starter. And honestly, I think he'll be someone that's a decent start. If, he gets the backfield to himself. He's filled in when Jacobs has kind of gone out at other times, and it seems like the team kind of trusts him to step in and be the guy. So not a must start, but someone where if you're dealing with injuries or bye weeks, you can play him. But the Vikings have been the 7th toughest matchup against running backs the last 5 weeks, but volume should make him a decent start. And then if I had to play a receiver, it's Christian Watson. He's been pretty good lately. He had 2 touchdowns last week. So he's someone you can play as like a wide receiver 3. Hope he gets in the end zone. Other than that, I don't really want to play Jordan Love in this game. He's in that quarterback 2 range, like high quarterback 2. But if you can find a better option, I'm probably trying to do that. I would rather play, let's see, like Daniel Jones versus Jordan Love. That's pretty close. I'd probably go Daniel Jones. Caleb Williams, I would go with him. I'd still go with Dak Prescott, even in a tough matchup against Philly. I'd go with him. Jacoby Brissett, my start of the week, obviously. Brock Purdy. Sam Darnold is kind of tough because I don't know if they're going to need to throw the ball more than 10 times. And they could probably just run the ball every play against Tennessee, but I'd probably play him over Jordan Love. And Love has been mostly disappointing this year for fantasy. He's obviously a talented player, but, it doesn't always equate to fantasy success. So been up and down. And yeah, I don't really want to start like Romeo Doubs or Matthew Golden or Luke Musgrave at tight end. So yeah, it's and again, this game has a gross 41.5 point over under. So I'm not really forcing anyone in the lineup other than maybe those running backs and maybe Christian Watson. And then for the Vikings, 9, JJ McCarthy. It's been rough. Obviously not looking to start him on the road in Green Bay, and I could see this going poorly. But again, this dude is basically a rookie. He's still super young, just overall, even as a second year player, he's still isn't he the youngest starting quarterback in the league or something? I remember at one point I heard a stat like that. So, give him time. To me, he's flashed a little bit from time to time. Even last week against the Bears, he didn't play well, but at the end of the game, he led a game-winning drive against the Bears. We just lost the game because we gave up a kick return that put him in field goal range right away when all we had to do was play defense for a few plays and win the game. So I'm not trying to make excuses, but it's not all doom and gloom. But McCarthy back there versus, Kirk Cousins when he was on our team, or Sam Darnold when he was on his basically MVP run. It is affecting the upside of Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. I'm still starting Justin Jefferson, but his expectations are lower. He's more of a low wide receiver 1. At this point, it's if you want to play guys even T. Higgins without Jamar Chase over him. Granted, he's going to be shadowed by Christian Gonzalez most likely for the Patriots, but I wouldn't blame you for starting Higgins over him. Stephon Diggs in that same game against that Bengals defense. I mean, I don't know if I could live with myself not playing Justin Jefferson, but that's a realistic thing. A decision you might have to make. Like, you know, it's at that point. And schedule adjusted. By the way, when I've been saying like the rankings, they've all been like schedule adjusted rankings. The Packers are kind of middle of the pack, pun intended, against receivers the last 5 weeks, schedule adjusted, but you know, it could be a gross game. Aaron Jones, he's kind of taken over as the clear lead back with Jordan Mason not super involved. And Aaron Jones, you got that revenge game narrative, obviously. He's had a few of those now, but he's a fine running back 2 start. And then TJ Hawkinson not starting. So moving on to the Giants, New York Giants at the Detroit Lions. This game has a 50.5 point over-under, even with Jackson Dart out for the New York Giants at quarterback for a second straight game. So they're expecting Jameis Winston to be able to step in and move the offense. And yeah, Russell Wilson isn't starting. It's going to be Jameis, so we like that. You know, he didn't have a big game last week, but that was a tougher matchup against the Packers. This week, you can throw on the Lions. They're more of a team that shuts down the run. So, you know, I obviously would rather have Jackson Dart in there. If Dart was out there, I would probably make him a start of the week, or he would be a candidate. But Jameis Winston is not a bad backup to put in there. So Jameis Winston himself is a quarterback 2, maybe a DraftKings DFS dart throw, but Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, Isaiah Hodgins at receiver. It looks like it looks like Slayton is good to go. So he should be good to go. If he were out, Isaiah Hodgins is someone that I would have maybe recommended as like a deep league play. But it looks like, Slayton and Robinson are both good to start this game. So, you know, Wan'Dale is going to get targets and probably not do much with them. I think you can start Wan'Dale or Slayton in a pinch in like deep leagues. Wan'Dale with his target volume, you know, he profiles as a, I don't know, low wide receiver 2, high wide receiver 3. And then I don't want to start any of these running backs, Tyrone Tracy or Devin Singletary. There is value to be had with those guys at certain points in the season, but the Lions are a brutal matchup for running backs. So I'm not looking to start those guys. I mean, if you have to play them, you know, Singletary's kind of in that running back 3 range. And then I'd probably lean with Tyrone Tracy. He was 19 for 88 on the ground, 4 for 51 on 4 targets last week. So you can play him as like a high running back 3, but that's about it. And then on the Lions side of the ball, Jared Goff had a terrible game against the Eagles last week. I expect him to bounce back. This game is at home in a dome. A good matchup against the Giants. They're the second best matchup the last 5 weeks, schedule adjusted. So they've been a good matchup all year. And the Philadelphia defense on the road is a much different task than playing the Giants at home. So Jared Goff, he's a good bounce back candidate. The Lions usually kind of come out, playing tough after a loss. They kind of destroyed the Commanders earlier this season after a loss. So this kind of is setting up for a similar type of game script where they could definitely, put up 30 plus points. They are 13.5 point favorites. So it's expected for them to score a lot. Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, you're starting them. Jameson Williams, he was my guy coming into the season. He looked like a disappointment, but he's really been turning it on. They're getting him involved closer to the line of scrimmage, which we like. And this is a matchup that he can easily exploit. The only worry here is that, with them being favored by so much, are they going to need him to do much in this game? Like if they're not trailing, are they going to need him to catch a lot of passes? Maybe, maybe not. But a couple weeks ago against the Commanders in a game script that projects to be kind of similar to this, where with the Lions winning and the Commanders or the opposing team, kind of trailing, Jameson still saw 7 targets, turn into 6 for 119 and a touchdown. He's had a touchdown in 3 straight weeks, so he's in the wide receiver 2 range for me. Like mid to high wide receiver 2. And then David Montgomery at running back. I think they are going to try to get him the ball in this game. It's been a rough, couple of weeks here. He hasn't gotten in the end zone the last couple of weeks. Against the Commanders, though, a couple weeks ago, 15 for 71. Just didn't get in the end zone. Last week against the Eagles, I almost don't even count that game. Like 6 for 27 on the ground. Didn't play a ton of snaps compared to some other games, but in that game, you kind of need the juice of Jahmyr Gibbs. So I think this is a good game script where if they're winning, they should be able to get him involved. And I like him as a kind of touchdown dependent, but solid low running back 2. And then this game is interesting. We got the New England Patriots at 9-2, traveling to take on the Cincinnati Bengals at 3-7. This game has a 49.5 point over under. The line has been moving a little bit throughout the week, but right now, as of this recording on November 22nd, about 7:20 p.m. Central Time. I forgot to say that at the beginning, but it is Saturday, so I'm recording this the night before the Sunday games. The Patriots are 7.5 point road favorites. A lot of that, it's been moving back and forth because we didn't know if Joe Burrow was going to come off of IR to play quarterback or if it was going to be Joe Flacco again. But Joe Flacco is going to start. For the Bengals, Trey Hendrickson at defensive end is out. Cam Taylor-Britt, starting corner, was placed on injured reserve. Their defense is already historically bad. So this bodes well for all Patriots players. And backup running back Samaje Perine is doubtful for this game. So that solidifies the volume for Chase Brown even more. And then speaking of injuries, like I said earlier, Ramondre Stevenson projects to probably play in this game for the Patriots. So on the Patriots side of things, Drake May is a must start in this game. The Bengals are just across the board. I'm going across the board here. The last 5 weeks, they're the best matchup, schedule adjusted, for quarterbacks, running backs, and tight ends. Wide receivers, they are... Where are they? They're kind of middle of the pack against receivers. That's interesting. That's kind of if you extend the sample size to the season, let's see where they are. They are still kind of middle of the pack. Schedule adjusted, that is. Interesting. Yeah, season long, they've been good against everything. I mean, I don't want to sit here and break down who they've played and how that's all come to be, but especially with the Bengals losing another corner, their defense doesn't scare me in any way against any position. So Drake May is a must-start quarterback 1. He might be the MVP this year if it's not Stafford. Stephon Diggs at receiver is a great play. It looks like Kayshon Boutte is going to be back at receiver. So he's someone you can play as a dart throw. I don't know if I want to put him in the lineup fresh off the injury as anything more than a wide receiver 3 or 4. But Stephon Diggs, he's borderline wide receiver 1. Maybe a high wide receiver 2 at worst. And Boutte being back does kind of limit my hopes for Mac Hollins, who had been playing well at receiver. Hunter Henry, I talked about, is my start of the week at tight end. They are historically bad against the tight end position. So, and then at running back, if Ramondre does play, I'm not really looking to start him. I mean, in a pinch, you can play him as a running back 3 if you wanted to play him over a Monungai, Singletary, Algier, Corum type of guy, where it's they're the backup on their team and they're kind of touchdown dependent. Ramondre Stevenson is kind of in a similar spot, but it's a good matchup. We really just don't know what the workload is going to look like with him and TreVeyon Henderson. I think Henderson is at least going to see about half the snaps or touches, and Henderson can do a lot more with those touches than Ramondre. So that's why I'm very confident that Hendo is going to have a good game. And Ramondre, if he comes back and he's the clear starter, then, we got to adjust our expectations and lower Henderson and, consider Ramondre as a starter moving forward potentially. But Henderson has looked awesome, so I think they're going to try to keep him involved. And then for the Bengals, no Jamar Chase. He's suspended for spitting. He claims he didn't do it. If you saw the video, he is a big old liar. So T Higgins is going to be the wide receiver 1 for this team. I don't know how to feel about that. Like he's been good without Jamar Chase in the past, but Christian Gonzalez is a really good corner. He missed time for the Patriots this season, but he's back, and obviously offenses can move players around and get better matchups, but that matchup, that corner receiver matchup isn't great for Higgins. But if you have him, I would still be starting him. The Patriots are a good matchup on the season against receivers, or I should say the last 5 weeks, from what I'm looking at. On the season, they're the second best schedule adjusted. So it's just a weird thing where team-wise they're bad, but they have a really good corner. I'm still starting T. Higgins as basically a must-start. If you have him, you pretty much have to start him. He's like a low wide receiver 1, high wide receiver 2, and he has immense upside. And then Andre Yoshivas, with no Jamar Chase, he's going to step up and kind of serve in that wide receiver 2 role. He's not someone you have to start, but you can flex him. You can definitely flex him as he's had some games in the past, but he's also been a little disappointing at times. So I'm cool starting him in like DFS or as a wide receiver 3-4. And then Chase Brown, even though the Patriots are a pretty tough run defense, Chase Brown is seeing a ton of volume. The Patriots are actually the toughest matchup on the season, schedule adjusted. But Chase Brown is seeing enough volume where he's still, when you look across the board at the other guys who are out there, he's probably a high running back 2, maybe a low running back 1, depending on how you feel about like Genty and Javonte. But yeah, he's very startable. And then Joe Flacco, he's going to get the start. You can stream him as a quarterback too, but without Jamar Chase, I dropped him to I still don't know who I'm going to pick up yet. I mean, maybe I'll pick him back up, but there's a few guys out there who I might prefer to play over Joe Flacco. If Jamar Chase was active, I would love to play Flacco. I was holding on to Flacco for a few weeks. I actually let some players go that I didn't want to with bye weeks and injuries because I was holding on to Flacco. Herbert is my normal starter. I had Flacco just to kind of block my opponents and because, I knew Herbert's bye was coming up. And Jaden Daniels, I picked him up because someone dropped him after his injury, and then I heard he might come back, so I scooped him up. But yeah, I had 3 quarterbacks on the roster. I just dropped Joe Flacco now, so it's annoying that I had 3 quarterbacks for this bye week, and now I'm not even playing him. But I got to pick someone up anyways. But and then Mike Gesicki is coming back at tight end. Last year, when one of these receivers was out, Jamar Chase or T Higgins, you could put Gesicki in there, and he saw an increase in fantasy points, fantasy involvement. But with Noah Fant there, that definitely makes it a little more, makes it a little harder to predict. I would lean Noah Fant over Mike Gesicki. I'm not sure why they even brought Noah Fant in. I feel like Mike Gesicki was really good in his role there. But Fant is somewhat involved, so he's someone that, DFS or if you're desperate, you can play him as like a tight end too. Moving on off of that game, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers at 6-4, traveling to take on the Chicago Bears at 7-3. This is a big game for the Bears, top of the division. Aaron Rodgers is questionable with a left wrist injury, limited on Friday. He's questionable. So that's big. And then for the Bears, Jalen Johnson at corner, he's still out. Kyler Gordon out. Tremaine Edmonds at linebacker out. Noah Sewell out at linebacker. TJ Edwards linebacker out. Yeah, I saw they had 3 linebackers that were going to be out. It looks like, yeah, wow. They got a lot of injuries here. So for fantasy, you definitely want Aaron Rodgers to play. If he's out, Mason Rudolph is going to get the start. On the Steelers side of the ball, Jaylen Warren is a good start at running back. It looks like he's going to be good to go. He's dealing with an injury, but he's a solid running back too. Kenneth Gainwell, even though he had a big week last week, I wouldn't look to put him in the lineup outside of deep leagues or DFS. Now that Warren should be good to go. I believe Jalen Warren left that game early, and Kenneth Gainwell was able to put up a big week with some receptions, but he's still a running back 3 or so this week. But someone actually played Kenneth Gainwell and Sean Tucker against me, and the Steelers defense all in the same game against me, so that's fun. What the? Okay, I was looking at something on my camera. Other than that, I mean, DK Metcalf, you can play him. He's been super disappointing. He's a wide receiver 2. If I had Michael Wilson, I'd play him over Metcalf. I would play both Eagles receivers over Metcalf, Jameson Williams, Olave. And yeah, I mean, no tight ends. I mean, Darnell Washington is fun. Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth are there, but I don't really want to start any of them. And then for the Bears, Caleb Williams is startable. At receiver, it's a little murky with all these weapons, and they're all getting healthy now. So Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Luther Burden. Burden kind of seems to be he's past Zacchaeus for opportunities. So if I had to pick one, it'd be Odunze, but he can always disappear. But he's a wide receiver 2 with upside. I'm interested to see how the Steelers defense has done recently against. So, okay, interesting. The last 5 games, schedule adjusted, the Steelers are the best matchup for receivers. I was going to say, I feel like they've been playing a little better lately, but apparently not. Because they are, they're giving it up. So Odunze is a decent start. I don't want to start DJ Moore or Luther Burden. Cole Kmet, Colson Loveland are there. If you had to pick one, it'd probably be Colson Loveland. He's a high tight end 2. He can make a big play, but with all these other weapons there, it limits his floor a little bit. And then after that, we got the New York Jets at 2-8, taking on the hot Baltimore Ravens at 5-5. Did I say the line for that last game before we officially move on? Yeah, the Steelers Bears game, 45.5 point over under. The Bears are 2.5 point home favorites. And then for the Jets Ravens, the Ravens are 13.5 point home favorites. The line is set at 44.5 points. So it's expected for the Ravens to kind of just crush here, which I think they will. For the Jets, I mean, you're starting Breece Hall and that's it. The Ravens defense has, on the season, they look like a good matchup, but now that they're healthy and playing well, they're a brutal matchup. Last 5 games, they're 3rd toughest for running backs. Breece Hall is still a volume running back 2, but wouldn't surprise me if we have a disappearing act. Tyrod Taylor is going to start over Justin Fields. Garrett Wilson on injured reserve is the only other guy I would want to have started, but it's going to be Adonai Mitchell, John Mechie, Isaiah Williams, Tyler Johnson, Arian Smith, Alan Lazard at receiver. So I don't even know who out of all those guys I'd want to play. So I'm playing none of them. And Mason Taylor at tight end, he flashed, and I think long term he's going to be a good play. But brutal matchup. He's nothing more than a low tight end 2 at best. And then on the Ravens side of the ball, Rashad Bateman is going to be out at receiver. So, Zay Flowers is pretty much the only guy I'm starting at receiver anyways, but maybe that makes him even a little safer possibly. The Jets just traded away their defense too. So, I mean, I think the Ravens are going to just roll here. Lamar Jackson is a must start quarterback. The only worry is that, maybe they don't need him to air it out a bunch, especially with him. He's getting more and more removed from that injury, but they still want to keep him healthy. Derrick Henry, I almost made him a start of the week, but I think he's probably too good to put in that category where it's like, if I would have made him a start of the week, it's like, oh, dude, duh, obviously no one's benching him. But there was a time where people were worried about him this year, but he's a great start this week, just with the projected game script at home. Great matchup against the Jets. I don't think they're going to be able to stop this offense whatsoever. They're the seventh best matchup for running backs, schedule adjusted the last 5 weeks. So, yeah. Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers is a decent start. I mean, he gives you a floor. He can make a big play here and there. It hasn't really been happening, but he's a wide receiver too. That should be decent. And then Mark Andrews it's annoying, but you can play him kind of with the landscape of the tight end position right now. He's like a low tight end 1, similar to a guy like Dallas Goedert, kind of touchdown dependent. Jake Ferguson is kind of in a similar tier where he still is probably, a little safer with yardage and volume, but Andrews he's been getting in the end zone. He's gotten in the end zone the last 3 weeks. Andrews, he had a rushing touchdown last week on it was a kind of a cool play. It was like they lined up with like they were gonna sneak push it, and then he just took the ball and ran around the edge and ran in for like a 35-yard touchdown. But playable, not exciting, but playable, and always someone you can put out there. And if he gets in the end zone, you're gonna be happy. Another blowout potential here. Seattle Seahawks traveling to take on the Tennessee Titans. Seahawks are 12.5-point road favorites. This over-under is set at 40.5. So, Torrey Horton got put on IR at receiver, it looks like, for the Seahawks. That's pretty big. So, behind JSN, it's going to be Cooper Kupp and Rashid Shaheed, who they traded for and haven't really used a lot yet. Maybe they will this week. But Kenneth Walker got put on the injury report yesterday on Friday with a glute. He's listed as questionable. I read something that said he's likely to play and it's not a big deal, but with Kenneth Walker, you never know. And injuries have always been his thing. So, he was almost a start of the week candidate for me, but once I saw that, I was like, no, thank you. But this is a dream matchup for the running game for the Seattle Seahawks with Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. The Titans aren't really able to stop the run. And with the projected game script, with them winning, I don't think the Seahawks are going to really even need to throw the ball. So Sam Darnold, I think he's a decent start this week, but you do run the risk of him really not needing to throw the ball. I mean, this happened, what game was that? Against the Cardinals, where, they destroyed the Cardinals, but they had 2 defensive scores, they had a lead, and they just ran the ball. Darnold threw the ball 12 times. He had 10 completions, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. And, he was terrible for fantasy, but he didn't need to do anything. So I could definitely see that happening again. So this is a game where I think they're going to lean on Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet. Monitor the news with this injury, but Kenneth Walker, I think, is a good start this week, but there is the injury risk. Charbonnet, I like Walker more than Charbonnet. Wouldn't surprise me now if it's more of an even split. It looked like Kenneth Walker was kind of taking over as more of the true lead back, but with this injury, who knows? But you can start either one. Charbonnet is more of a running back 3, not a must start, but I'm probably gonna have to play him in a league or two. JSN might be the best play of the week, but again, if they don't need to, if they get a defensive score and are running the ball, it might not be a huge game for him, but he's been so good. You're obviously starting him. And then, Cooper Kupp, Rashid Shaheed, not starting them, but monitor kind of what they're doing. And then AJ Barner at tight end. He has his games from time to time. He gets his touchdowns. He does his little dance. He had 11 targets last week, 10 for 70 through the air. Not really chasing that, but I'm interested in watching how they use him this week. But if they don't need to throw the ball a lot, his targets could definitely come down compared to last week where, Darnold threw the ball 44 times, which was a season high. And then for the Titans, I don't think I'm starting a single person. Not even like Tony Pollard or Tajay Spears. If you had to start one, those would be the guys, but they have no upside and their floor isn't even high. They're in that like running back 3 range, but I'd start Ramondre Stevenson over them if, assuming he's back and good to go. Kareem Hunt for sure. I'd start Tyrone Tracy over them. Charbonnet. So that's kind of where we're at with Spears and Pollard. Aya Manor is out. Calvin Ridley got put on IR. He came back from injury and then immediately like broke his leg or femur or something. Yeah, I can't remember what it was. Fibula. Yeah, tough. Very tough. So I'm not starting Cam Ward or any, DK or Chig. None of those guys. So it's tough. But the Titans are 1-9, and they really should be 0-10. That game they won against the Cardinals was one of the biggest choke jobs of all time. Speaking of the Cardinals, they're 3-7 at home, taking on the Jacksonville Jags, who are 6-4. 47.5 point over under. The Jags are 2.5 point road favorites. Tight end Brenton Strange activated off of IR, so he's going to be back at tight end for Jacksonville. Not looking to start him, but someone to maybe monitor because he had some involvement and was valuable for fantasy earlier in the season. Hunter Long, the other tight end there, is going to be out. Brian Thomas Jr. has been ruled out with that injury. He's been missing time with ankle injury, and then Travis Hunter obviously on IR. So for Jacksonville, it's going to be Parker Washington, Jacoby Myers, Brenton Strange. You can be, maybe you throw him in there if you're really desperate, but yeah, Parker Washington with Jacoby Myers there, he's not as enticing as if it was just him. Last week, only 2 targets, 2 for 20. Jacoby Myers actually has been a little bit involved here since being traded there. His first game on 44% of the snaps, 3 for 41 on 3 targets. And then the following week, last week, 65% of the snaps, 5 for 64 on 6 targets. So if I had to play one receiver, it'd be Myers as a wide receiver 3. But that's it. And then at running back, ETN is in a good spot here. Bayshaw Tootin, the rookie running back there, also got involved. But I'm still playing ETN with confidence despite the split. I think, if you have him, he's a really solid, running back 2 most weeks. And Tootin is more someone I'm looking to kind of see how they use him, but he's still in that running back 3 range. He was 15 for 74 and a touchdown last week, though, so someone to definitely stash if you have room on your bench. Trevor Lawrence, I don't really want to play him. 2 quarterback league, like Superflex, you can. Quarterback 2, but nothing more than that. And then, Brenton Strange, I probably don't want to start him first game back, but, I would probably play him over guys like Mason Taylor and even Hawkinson and AJ Barner. Once you get to that point, it's like maybe Brenton Strange is worth a shot. Maybe see if there's any reports on snap, limitations or anything. But for the Cardinals, I love Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. No Marvin Harrison Jr. at receiver. So Michael Wilson, decent low wide receiver 2 start. I don't think he's going to put up 185 yards again, but he saw 18 targets. Even if that doesn't happen, he's going to see, 7, 8 plus targets, probably double-digit targets. So definitely excited to play him. I know I picked him up in one league where I have Brian Thomas, and I'm almost thankful that I don't have to make that decision, that now that Brian Thomas is out, I can just put Michael Wilson in there with Keenan Allen on bye. Another person that I would kind of, not want to have to struggle with making that decision. I'm kind of happy to play Michael Wilson. And then Greg Dortch is another deep receiver play for the Cardinals. He actually was pretty decent last week. I know Trey McBride at tight end, who is obviously an auto start each and every week. And Michael Wilson stole the show, but Greg Dortch was 6 for 66 on 6 targets and a touchdown. A lot of 6s kind of makes me nervous. But he's startable as like a wide receiver 3-4. But Trey McBride, obviously you're starting him, but just to kind of highlight how good he's been, like he's basically like a wide receiver 1 at tight end. So if you have him, he's been scoring just as much, if not more, than like the top receivers. So even if you flex him, like he's a must start. And then in the running back room, I don't want to start any of these guys, but Imari DeMarcado is out, and Trey Benson is not coming back this week, it looks like. So You know, Michael Carter is there. Bam Knight is there. Last week, Carter was 2 for 6 on the ground, but he did see 7 targets, turned into 5 for 22 through the air. Bam Zonovan Knight, he was 5 for 24 and a touchdown, 4 for 21 through the air on 4 targets. So I don't know. I'm probably just avoiding that running back room if I can. You have better options, almost certainly. But there could be fantasy goodness in this game. And speaking of the opposite of fantasy goodness, the Cleveland Browns traveling to take on the Las Vegas Raiders, both teams 2-8. This game has a 36.5 point over-under. I don't think you realize how insane that is. That's crazy. 36.5. The Raiders are favored by 3.5 at home. I love the defenses in this game for what it's worth. Don't normally talk about those, but Dylan Gabriel is out, so Shadir Sanders is going to get the start. Didn't look great filling in once Gabriel got hurt last week, but now we had a week of practice and actually taking reps with the first team, so I don't expect it to be good, but maybe he has a chance to do something. Yeah, so on the Brown side, Judkins I would start as a running back 2, especially if they're able to get a lead. That's even better. Harold Fannin is startable at tight end. Njoku is going to play, so that limits him a little bit, but Fannin is a tight end 2. And Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, I don't really want to start any of these guys. Jerry Jeudy, he's seeing targets, but just I know 2 weeks ago he was 6 for 78 and a touchdown on 12 targets, but he only did that because I dropped him in a league. So now I haven't dropped him in any league since. And last week, the following week after that, 7 targets, 3 for 21. So yeah, let's get past that. And then for the Raiders, I mean, this is a brutal matchup. You're still starting Genty as a running back 1, high running back 2. Brock Bowers at tight end. You start him as a must start. And that's pretty much it. I mean, Trey Tucker, Tyler Lockett, Besh, the rookie, they're there. I mean, Trey Tucker, he can always hit a big play, but the Browns defense is pretty tough. So he's a wide receiver 3 at best. At Besh, get it? And Tyler Lockett, I know it was fun for a week, but I'm not really looking to start that. And by fun, it was let me see, 5 for 44. It was against Denver a couple weeks ago. Hey man, it was just fun to see him back. This is an interesting game here, very fascinating. The Eagles at 8-2 taking on the Cowboys 4-5-1 in Dallas. The Eagles are favored by 3 on the road. Lane Johnson out. That's a huge injury at tackle for the Eagles. For the O-line, he's one of the best linemen in the league, so that's definitely a big loss. And the Eagles defense hasn't looked good as it is. Also with that, the Cowboys defense still isn't good, but they've been playing better than they were earlier in the year, and they made some acquisitions, so it's not a complete pushover defense like they once were, but they're still bad. So for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, you're starting him obviously as a must-start quarterback 1. Saquon Barkley, starting him, running back 1. It hasn't been offensive player of the year Saquon Barkley of last year, but you're still definitely playing him. He's seeing a ton of volume, and yeah, these receivers are playable with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. With the way the Cowboys play coverage, I was hearing some stats on that where basically it's a good spot for Devontae Smith to maybe make some plays in this game. Him and AJ Brown have been pretty inconsistent this year, but I think Devontae Smith, if you just keep him in your lineup most of the year, you're going to be happy. Last week he was only 1 for 8, but I would be looking to play him as a wide receiver 2 this week. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't take him out of my lineup now against Dallas. Maybe if you had Jameson Williams, you could put him in over him, or if you drafted Ted McMillan late or Diggs, but that's about it. And then AJ Brown is also in a similar tier, wide receiver 2. Been very disappointing. He saw 11 targets last week, 7 for 49. Um, and yeah, this game has a 47.5 point over under. I could definitely see it hitting the under. If the Cowboys defense is playing better and they can't score because the Eagles defense is great, and the Eagles offense hasn't really been doing much lately. Yeah, could definitely be a gross game, but there are talented pieces that you're probably starting. Like Dallas Goedert, you can play him as a low tight end one. Hope he gets a touchdown. That's pretty much what he is at this point. I think he's a really talented player, but he just doesn't see, to be a really truly talented, or not talented, but to be a difference making fantasy tight end, you really need to be the number 1 or number 2 option in your passing game. And, he's 3 at best. Yeah, he's probably the 3rd behind AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. Plus they have Saquon to run with, obviously. For the Cowboys, Dak Prescott is not a must start. He's still like a low quarterback 1, but if this game does go crazy and it hits the over, then you're probably happy you played him. But the Eagles defense is really good, and it might be a game where even if he throws a touchdown or 2, even it might not be like great for fantasy. But CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, his receivers, you're starting them. Jake Ferguson, like I just said, you kind of need to be a top 1 or 2 option to be a really good fantasy tight end consistently. And when CeeDee Lamb was out, it was good for Jake Ferguson, but lately it's slowed down quite a bit, and he's just not the league winner that he was to start the season. So still playable as a like a low tight end 1, but it's been slowing down, and the Eagles are a very, very, very tough defense. On the season, schedule adjusted against tight ends, they are the best. They're literally the best. Yeah, I was going to say, because overall, it's the Bills are the best, but schedule adjusted, it's the Eagles, and then you flip them for vice versa. And then Javonte Williams at running back, he's very startable as a low running back 1, maybe a high running back 2. Week 1, he had 2 touchdowns against them, so it probably won't be efficient, but he's going to see a lot of volume, and he's been good this season. So I'm not looking to bench him unless I have maybe if you drafted TreVeyon Henderson late and you have him, and you pick someone else, maybe it's a decision, but you're pretty much starting Javonte in most cases. Falcons 3-7. It looked like they might be better this year, but they were not. Traveling to take on the Saints at 2-8. Tyler Penix, quarterback for the Falcons, is out for the year. I believe he had like a partially torn ACL. And then Drake London, a superstar receiver, is going to be out. Even when he comes back with Kirk Cousins starting at quarterback, that hurts his upside. My dynasty team is just absolutely going through it with these injuries, and I have Drake London. Like, I lost James Conner and Mike Evans and Tyreek Hill, and I lost George Kittle for a lot of the year, and I have Trey Benson, who still isn't back, and it's just been brutal. It's just been absolutely brutal. Darren Waller looked like he was gonna be good for me, and he's been hurt. Granted, I do have Kittle back now, so I even have Michael Penix on my taxi squad still, so that's hilarious. My whole team is hurt, and I won the championship last week, and I'm the 1 seed. I have 1 loss, and it's like, am I gonna have to make another trade for someone? Like, I just keep having to acquire these pieces to, try to keep the team together to run it back. But anywho, Falcons, no Drake London, so Kyle Pitts gets a bump. Even with Kirk Cousins, I think that's a fine play. Is a low to mid tight end 1. Bijan Robinson, you're still starting him. Does limit, the offense a little bit, having Kirk Cousins back there. No Drake London. And that's just assuming that Kirk Cousins lost it. Like, he's been playing really bad lately whenever he's gotten a shot, going back to last year. That's why they made the switch to Penix. But, maybe if he can turn the clock back, it'll be okay. But historically, Penix has been good for Drake London. So Darnell Mooney gets a bump at receiver. I really don't want to do that. But he is going to be their wide receiver 1, it seems like. So He's I don't know, a wide receiver 3, I guess. It's gross. It's really gross. This game, did I say the over under? 40.5. Saints are favored by 2.5 at home. Tyler Shuck is going to get the start again. He's looked better than Spencer Rattler, so that gives hope to Alvin Kamara, who is banged up right now with an ankle injury. He's questionable. It looks like there's a good chance he plays, though. If he starts, last week, 22 carries, 83 yards, 3 for 32 through the air on 3 targets. Like, if your offense is stable enough, but when I say last week, I meant week 10 before their bye. But if your offense is stable enough to actually let you get touches as a running back, that helps. And the Falcons have been decimated by running backs lately. I mean, they were the team that just gave up that huge performance to Jonathan Taylor, and schedule adjusted the last 5 weeks. They're the second best matchup for running backs, only better than the Bengals, who I don't even know if you can count them as a defense. So Kamara is a low running back 2, high running back 3. Chris Olave, I'm very happy to start. He's been very consistent all year. And he actually had a big game with Tyler Shuck the week before their bye. 5 for 104 and a touchdown on 8 targets. They hit him on a deep shot. So I like that. With Spencer Rattler, there's a lot of dink and dunk, but the targets are there. The Falcons are a good matchup. They're the 5th best matchup for receivers the last 5 weeks, schedule adjusted. So Olave, Kamara, and then Juwan Johnson, a name that keeps coming up. 4 for 92 and a touchdown last week. He's gotten in the end zone 2 straight weeks. Only 4 targets last week. And by last week again, I mean before their bye. Sorry. Week 10. He's a high tight end 2. High tight end 2. Playable. And then we're moving on to Sunday Night Football. Tampa Bay Bucks taking on the Rams in LA. The Bucks are 6-4. The Rams are 8-2. Seems like a game that I think the Rams will win. They're 7-point home favorites. Wow. 49.5 point over under. Chris Godwin at receiver is questionable, but Mike Evans is still out, obviously. McMillan is out. Bucky Irving is out. And they got a lot of names on this injury report. Hassan Reddick, Jamel Dean on defense. Yeah. Lots of people. They have a guard that's out. So it's going to be Sean Tucker and Rashad White at running back. Sean Tucker, last week's running back 1, played against me out of nowhere. So stupid. Let's start with the Bucks. So for the Rams have a really good defense. Baker Mayfield. Oh man, like he started the season so hot, but he's been missing his weapons. He still has a Mika Egbigbo. Maybe Godwin will be back. If not, Tez Johnson will kind of be that wide receiver 2. Kate Otten is there at tight end. So Baker is playable. This is just a tougher matchup. He's more of a low quarterback 2, high quarterback 1. Like really, between guys like him and Dak Prescott, Caleb Williams, Danny Dimes, like that's a really tough decision. Even like, would you play Jacoby Brissett over Baker? I have both of them in a league. I have Baker in there now, but I might go with Jacoby. But that would mean if I put Jacoby in, that would ruin it for everyone else, because then he'd finally come crashing back to earth. So I'd play Baker over like Darnold and Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence. Over Danny Dimes in that tough matchup, I'd probably go Baker. I think there's a better chance of Danny Dimes falling on his face and getting destroyed. So Baker's startable, but limit expectations. Emeka Egbuka, he's still a wide receiver 1 start. He's really good. So you're starting that guy. And then at running back, it's interesting. Rashad White was kind of the guy over Sean Tucker. Last week, though, Sean Tucker had a huge game. Huge game. He was 19 for 106 and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Added 2 for 34 and a touchdown on 2 targets through the air. Meanwhile, Rashad White played more snaps, but he was 10 for 51 on the ground, 2 for 11 on 3 targets through the air. So, also, not to mention, this matchup with the Rams is brutal. 4th best schedule adjusted the last 5 weeks. I think they're the toughest on the season. 2nd toughest when you account for schedule, and the 3rd toughest just overall. So, you know, with the uncertainty, like I would maybe play Sean Tucker just in the off chance that, you know, maybe he has a big game and they get him involved, but he's still like probably a low running back 2 at best, probably more of a running back 3. And Rachaad White, I mean, I just don't know how they're going to use these guys. Like, he's a good pass catcher, but yeah, he's losing touches. So until Bucky Irving is back, it might be a gross situation. If Godwin is back, I'm probably not starting him right out of the gate, but that does kind of eliminate Tez Johnson as an option. I'm probably not really looking to start Tez anyways, outside of like deep leagues, like wide receiver 3, 4. And then Cade Otton is someone you can start as a tight end. Against the Bills, it was rough, but they're a brutal matchup. He was 2 for 28 on 5 targets. The Rams are kind of middle of the pack against tight ends on the year, schedule adjusted. So, and then for the Rams, Stafford, he's a really good start. He might be the MVP if it's not Drake May. So the Bucs can give it up in the passing game. And honestly, you know, they can give it up in the running game too. Like, their run defense hasn't been as stout as in years past. So Kyron Williams is a good start. With Stafford, you know, he's obviously touchdown dependent since he's not mobile, but when you got Devontae Adams there at the goal line, you know, he's pretty much a lock for at least 1 touchdown. So Stafford is, you know, quarterback 1, probably mid quarterback 1, honestly. Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, you're starting them. Not starting any tight ends this week, but Tyler Higbee is on injured reserve now. So Terrence Ferguson, the rookie, Davis Allen, Kobe Parkinson, kind of see how, you know, the snaps and the targets look with that injury. And then finally, Monday Night Football, Carolina Panthers at 6-5, going to San Francisco to take on the 49ers at 7-4. This might be a fun game. I'm hoping it is. It's going to come down to if Bryce Young can play well, in my opinion. But 49.5 point over under. 49ers are 7.5 point favorites. So it's projected to be a pretty high scoring game here. For the Panthers, you know, Bryce Young is startable in a 2 quarterback league. Rico Dowdle, I almost made him my start of the week, but I've made him a start of the week 2 weeks in a row. He's probably a must start at this point. But he's awesome. He's the clear lead back over Chuba. And then Ted McMillan, we talked about him as my start of the week. That's pretty much it. You know, you got Leggett as the dart throw. Coker is back. You know, Jatavian Sanders is there at tight end, but it's pretty much Rico, Ted, or T-Mac as he likes to be called apparently, and log out. Looks like they're going to be without their center. And then for the 49ers, Brock Purdy, he's back. He's healthy. He was almost my start of the week at quarterback. He should be an awesome play. In his first game back last week, 3 touchdowns on only 26 passes, 19 completions, 200 yards. So we like that. We definitely like that. Christian McCaffrey, you're starting obviously as a must-start running back 1. George Kittle, he's been awesome with Brock Purdy. I wish Purdy and Kittle were healthy all year because Kittle was my guy. Traded for him in Dynasty. I drafted him in my main league. And you know, now everything is good. So hopefully we can just keep it. Everyone stay healthy. Everyone be good. But he could have put up like an all-time season if both would have been healthy. But he's a great play. Must start. And then at receiver, Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall are both playable. Pearsall was hugely disappointing last week in his first game back from injury. I played him over Deebo Samuel in a league. I made sure I started Deebo in one league. I sat him in another. So, you know, I was kind of doing, I call it like the misery hedge where, you know, either way, you're going to be partially happy, partially sad in one league versus the other. But only 2 targets, caught 1 for 0 yards. So I think Pearsall will have a better performance this week. Not a must start, but he's still a high wide receiver 3, I would say. Jawan Jennings is probably a safer play as a wide receiver 3, maybe a low wide receiver 2. But you know, they both have question marks. You're really confident in McCaffrey and Kittle, and between those two receivers, you know, maybe one of them will have a good game, but honestly, they might not. So, all right, that's gonna do it for this episode, ladies and jellyfish. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. As always, make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you are enjoying the pod. And good luck to everyone except your opponents in week 12. I will see you all in week 13. Peace.